So awesome. Thanks for joining me here at IMN in beautiful San Diego. I love getting this town. Natasha and Kathy, great to meet with you. Got to hear a little bit of your story. Um, you know, being in the industry for quite some time, you all are growing out here in the Southeast. Tell me a little bit about your focus, maybe about the company and your focus and what you're working on.
So, Southwest Equity Partners is a property management company located in San Diego. So, our
Yep.
main focus is here in Southern California. We are kind of at a pivotal moment. We have grown to about 2,000 units
Great.
in the market, and we are growing at leaps and bounds. But it took us probably 4 years to get to that place.
Yep.
And now we feel like we're kind of at the peak where we're just going to be we think the growth is just going to keep going.
Yeah.
So we've hired since then. We now have 77 employees, where at 1.4 years ago, they only had 12.
Wow.
To give you a perspective of how much we are looking to grow.
Massive growth.
Yeah.
Awesome. And can you tell me a little about maybe the focus or some stories that you're seeing on the ground? Because obviously we're hearing challenges, especially at very localized levels. But any bright spots or optimistic stories that you're hearing right now around resident journey, engagement?
Yeah, I think right now everybody knows that the residents they're looking for amenities, they're looking for concessions, and they're looking for community, right? Like the community has to be in the community. And we really like to push that. 4 years ago or during COVID, it was kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Everybody was locked down, they couldn't go out. And so we've really shifted our mindset and kind of meeting the residents where they are and even engaging like the on-site managers and the community managers. Shifting the whole culture of multifamily just being kind of in and out, in and out, in and out.
Yep.
We're trying to retain and build relationships. And again, it always falls back on the community.
It's interesting because I just heard some stats of like, obviously renewals are different levels, but I was hearing from some owners being able to get to 10% higher renewals. A lot of times people talk about having a friend in the community, having an event, having something to look forward to in the app.
Yes.
So are there any things that maybe you're using technology on in the properties or with your company that are engaging those residents a little bit better, or even your employees on site? Anything that you're doing?
There's a couple of things. So obviously we want to take advantage of tech. So we do use an app that actually joins the community together. You can pay online. We try to get the community manager to actually push messages through that so that people can talk amongst each other that way. But also with a lot of Natasha's properties, like she had said, they're very community oriented. So we do try to do things for them from a standpoint of, appreciation, bring the taco Tuesday food truck, which we just did recently.
Yeah.
And those are just little things. It doesn't cost us much, and it just shows them that we care.
Yeah.
Pets are whoever, your friends, family, your pets. We have some of those people that really do embrace everyone and everything in their community. And we know that they live and they continue to live in either our community or the surrounding area. And our goal is to kind of keep them with us. And Natasha does have some residents who have been there 10 plus years. So it does
30
speak
plus.
30
30
plus.
years, 30 years plus. I mean, it's amazing. Today, it's hard to move. Something I learned very early in my life was that geography may be one of the biggest factors in our lives of who we interact with, right? Yeah, we talk about, you think about when you move away from college or high school or being a kid and you have an entirely new network. Even as we grow older, right?
Yes.
It's hard to keep those connections. So we're speaking today. What are some of the things that maybe you've heard here or you're excited about sharing on stage? And can you give us a glimpse into that?
Yeah. Yesterday I felt like a couple of the panels that I sat in, we were hearing a lot of, that you can automate and you can manage 1,000 units by yourself and you don't need a management company or you don't need to resort to fee-based management. And I just, I always, when I have the opportunity to talk about that, I say, it's a different experience though.
Yeah.
Are you turning and burning at your property? You just checking some boxes and is this for tax reasons? But, those things that we talked about, like building the community, having the peace of mind every time a new legislation comes out that somebody else is knowledgeable about it. You can't really put a number on that. So if it's 3% or 4% or whatever, sometimes it might turn out to be worth it. So I kind of yesterday felt a little beaten down. I was like, man, we're like, I'm a fee-based management company, like that's what we do. But then I saw that there's a niche for everyone, right?
Sure.
Like it works for some. So it opened up my eyes yesterday to see that.
Yeah. And anything else that stands out to you or that you're excited about sharing?
So our portfolio does have all class levels. So we have 4 lease-ups right now.
Yeah.
And they're actually, because they're geographic, 2 are kind of similar in scope. The other 2 they're completely different because of the locations. So it's really about talking to the community. What do they want? So beyond the, we're having to try to lease What do they want outside of that or around it within their community? So it's really something that we zone in on. And because we're locally based, that is the nice thing is that we kind of feel regional in that we're local, but we can actually come up to where everyone else is looking from the boutique style hospitality. Our president, Jake Zeter, actually comes from the hospitality background.
Oh, great.
So he's from Nevada.
Yeah.
He worked with Steve Wynn
Great.
for I think 7-8 years. So he really does push that into not only us, but to make sure that it flows through into the communities, which makes a big difference.
Like you said, it doesn't have to oftentimes cost more, but to give that extra little oomph of an experience when you come on site.
Yeah.
I mentioned, I think yesterday, one of the things that stood out to me when I was going to shop a property for an owner was that their property, the service techs turned when they saw you. You know, they can ignore you, but they turned as they were clipping trees in front of the front clubhouse and turned and stopped and said hello and smiled. And that is free.
Yes.
And yes, maybe it takes them an extra 5 seconds or 10 seconds to take a break from cutting, but they need a break. They're humans. And number two, it meant something to me, and I won't forget that image in my mind. And then when I left, you know, when I'm inside, everyone has water, everyone has snacks.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you don't, good God, go to Costco, buy some. It's free, or go online and order them.
Yeah.
But come on, like, to make someone feel like they're at home, right? When you come over to my house, what's the first thing I would say to you?
Yeah,
would you like something to drink?
And then you would offer me something.
I want you to feel at home. And if I can't feel at home when I'm walking into a leasing office, that blows my mind how many properties get that wrong.
Yeah.
And don't create some kind of incredible emotional attachment a moment I walk to that property.
Yeah,
I mean, even when I'm driving through the gate too, you know, because you can get me earlier versus everyone else around, but I saw staggering metrics of 80%, 84% versus directly across the street at 94%.
Yeah,
which is shocking.
You just have to remember, we don't provide 4 walls. Like, we're providing a whole experience. This is where memories are made.
Yes.
You know, their kids are walking, they're sharing family meals. So some days it seems like, wow, this is stressful, this is hardcore, but we're really providing something so huge to people and having you get home at the end of the day after a stressful day at work. Like, you're not dealing with the gate doesn't work.
Yeah.
My front door is jammed. I got a leak. You know, not having to deal with those things, like, it makes me feel good that I'm always busy because it means I'm always helping other people. Right?
Yes.
We love that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You know, you all must be at 100% fill rate because the weather out here is amazing.
It's beautiful.
Great food, great restaurants.
Right.
Now, there is a shortage, though, of housing.
Yes, of supply,
and so, you know, what are the things, you know, there's multiple ways we can go down that rabbit hole. Obviously, different legislation in a lot of municipalities in the California state. And I used to live here. What are some things that you're seeing with reduced housing? Is it that rents are going up at a quick pace, or is it that it's still very competitive in certain submarkets?
I would say it's still very competitive.
Okay.
You know, where we could judge something based on the cycle.
Yeah.
I think that kind of went away since COVID.
Yeah.
So we've been kind of just trying to relearn what that renter wants and when they want it. There are certain patterns when it's time to go back to school and, you know, there's vacation times, be a little bit slow, but we really just have to keep up on what they're asking and watching the traffic. And we have to work really closely with the owners to say, hey, this is what the pro forma going into it. Maybe that was 6-8 months ago you did that. Now here's where we're at. So and we don't want to fall below the line, of course. We've got to help them keep their financials straight, but we also have to be very, you know, cognizant of what the renter's saying they want. And if it's, you know, they're down the street, there's another lease up, we're up against that.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that issue maybe a year ago. So we've got to take all of those factors into consideration as today. And then we have to pivot really quickly. And that's where it comes in with working with the owners and really educating them on, you know, what's happening in the market. Because sometimes they'll just say, well, you know, we built it, we based it on the numbers. Why are we off? And our goal is to be there or better. And I think with the lease up we're doing now, it's a higher end. So we had to set up the expectation that, listen, you may not get as much traffic, but the quality, ideal, but nice. But we were very surprised out the traffic is there. So that's a good thing.
I think too, talking about shortage, we have to recognize the opportunity. I've got a lot of owners doing garage conversions to ADUs. You know, events like this, I saw all of the different trades out there. And so, you know, having that opportunity, you know, to mention that to your owner, like, hey, you have this big field here. What could we do with it? Yeah. And I think that, you know, a lot of the owners do enjoy the opportunity of having, you know, people like us that will step up and say, hey, we've done this before. We have experience.
It's a huge opportunity for residents.
Yeah.
Because if you can build more units, more housing,
Mhm.
obviously more housing creates actually
Supply.
supply and demand.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I used to live in rent control. And I'll tell
Yeah.
you, rent control actually increased the rents dramatically because builders didn't want to build. And
Yeah.
obviously, a lot of NIMBYism. But I think about that. It's really interesting because you have different folks. Some people want, yards.
Yeah.
Some people don't. Some people just want, and
Yeah.
I think of myself early in life, I just wanted a place to crash and
Different
then
experience.
go out, right? And go live. But I wanted the smallest, cheapest unit I could find when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't have the money
Yeah.
to spend an extra few thousand or extra even few hundred. And I think that's interesting because, when you're talking about ADUs, is that a long term? Do you think that's just short term, or do you think that's going to be a long term thing and have had success with that?
I think it's hard to tell. I
Yeah.
think we've seen a lot of ADU companies that have come into play.
Yeah.
So their goal obviously is long term. They do.
Actually, for our audience who
Yes.
doesn't know, the ADUs, you're allowed statewide to build ADUs, or is it only by municipality?
I think it's
I thought
statewide.
statewide,
I
but
believe-
don't quote me on
But
that,
it,
think
I
so,
know
too.
it's
it does
San
keep
Diego.
changing.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it's statewide, and San Diego had that opportunity with, and I actually know some people outside of the city itself that built ADUs as a resident because it was more income, more
Interesting.
income for them.
Is there a limitation on the number, or do you have properties?
Yeah,
where you're putting-
there's specific limitations,
Okay.
and that does depend on the area that you're in, how
Sure.
much parking you can provide,
Yes.
and that. But I think the ADU itself will stick around,
Sure.
whether the legislation changes and allows us to keep building them. But it's just the same as having another studio or another one bedroom.
Yeah.
I mean, people see it the same, and it's kind of like a little cottage. Some of
Yeah.
them, and
Yeah.
Gives them a
North
little
Park is
privacy.
riddled with them.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, some of them, especially with the garage conversions, you wouldn't know. You'd never know it wasn't originally built like that.
I gotta imagine too, for some folks, think about seniors or people in my
Yeah.
family. As you get older, right, you're on a fixed income.
Yeah.
And so if rent's going up, let's say even at only 3%, 5%, 7%, over years that can add up. So if someone needed to downsize, I think of people who need to downsize,
Yeah.
empty nesters, seniors, and I'm hearing a lot of folks going from a 4 or 5 bedroom house, like, we're going to sell, we're going to move back into an apartment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We just need 1 bedroom,
That's
2
it.
bedroom.
Yes.
And so they can go from a $3, $4, $5,000 a month mortgage down to a rent of
Yeah.
$1,500, $2,000. I also think about if I'm spending on this larger unit, my kids move out, I could now move to an ADU potentially.
Yeah.
Right? If it's a
Downsize.
different lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it seems like it gives optionality for
It
people,
does.
especially in a market that is such hot and very high demand as California.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Real estate is not going down. And, we can look at the news and people think cities are dying.
Yeah.
But last time I checked, California real estate just continues to
Oh,
skyrocket.
it's thriving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the things I did want to ask you about is obviously your company and the
Yeah.
founders. And so tell me about maybe the culture that you all have and how that culture for your team also benefits your residents.
So it started out as a small company.
Yeah.
Will Cregan was the co-founder, and then the investor Jim Zeter actually was Will was managing some of the properties,
Okay.
and then it became, hey, wait a minute, why don't we come together? And there was this culmination, and so fast forward, there's four stakeholders. There's
Right.
Jake, Jim, and then Will and his wife.
Okay.
But we also say, hey, the mindset is we've got to grow. We've got to grow if we want
Yeah.
to stay in business,
Yeah.
period. But what do we need to do? So it really came down to that feel of what do the residents want? Because we can build as much as we want, we can lease as many as we want, but we're just going to deal with turnover. We're going to deal with unhappy residents and your reputation, right? So ultimately, those are the things that we want to make sure that if our name is with a property, with an owner, something good is going to come of that with residents knowing that you're in good hands with us.
Yeah.
Because, the goal is that they would stay long-term at any of our properties.
That's great. And I think about it, I saw a recent stat that over, I think it's 60% of apartments or multifamily units are owned by people of 100 units or less. 80% is
Yes.
200 units or less.
Yes.
Many people start with 4 or
Yeah.
10 or 12 units, and it is a family business,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think so many people think that the industry is controlled by these large companies, but it's actually creating jobs. You mentioned
Yeah.
almost 100
especially,
jobs.
especially in San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My sisters, it's funny enough, are all renters. Talk to them about owning. They love to rent,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, many people I'm finding, choose to rent. Some have to rent, but some choose to rent because of the ability, like you said, the flexibility,
Yeah.
the ability to have the amenities and not have to worry. right? You've got someone else who's managing it for
Take
you,
care of
taking
that.
care of everything that you need. The upgrades when the plumber comes. I got to pay a few
Yeah.
$100 when that plumber
Yeah.
comes.
Yeah, but
You cover it,
but
right?
it
Make-
shifted recently though.
Yeah.
I mean, over the past few years in San Diego, it's not cheaper to
Mm.
buy than to rent anymore. For us.
Yes.
Like you want, like if you were to run the numbers will not make sense to you. So unless you're just, you just purposely want to buy,
Yeah.
it's like a lot more people. It's like renting is the natural state, the natural way they're going. So, benefit to us,
Yeah.
but it also means that we have to create, better environments
Exactly.
and create a different feel.
Mhm.
Now, what is maybe if you could share with me one of the challenges you've seen over the last few years, and maybe it was a lesson for you of how to run your businesses better and more efficiently, and maybe at a power. I know as we were talking earlier.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned how a lot of the investors and the owners, especially in San Diego,
Yeah.
they started with 1 to 4 units and
Sure.
then they grew. We do happen to have a lot of those owners that collectively, when we might have 100 units, but that's spread over, call it 10 or 12 properties. So one of the things that we have come across is some of them haven't quite grown to the level where we want to grow. There was a match at one point. Now there isn't. And, when I came in, Jake was like, your job is to help grow the company. So as soon as I came in, he said but we're going to let go of some of our clients. And I was like, what? We had to take a step back
Sure.
to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it really quickly though. We didn't dwell on it. We made the decision, and Natasha had, it really helped free up her to then focus on what she needed to do with the existing residents. And it really freed up everybody's time to grow and where we needed to. So sometimes you do have to take that step back. It was hard though, because it was one of those things like, why are we giving that up when we know that we could make that better? But there's a point where you just have to analyze that worth and the cost of everybody's time to where we want to go. So it was a little bit challenging.
Yeah.
But the nice thing was it took maybe 90 days to kind of turn that around. So one of the things that we do is, we might need to just step back a minute or make a mistake, but pick up.
I think one of the interesting things too is that as an owner manager, not just a manager, but because you're an owner, you understand the investor standpoint, the benefit, but also the importance of investing in the residents, investing in the properties for the long term. Because if the residents win and your staff wins, then your investors will naturally win too.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think about a year ago, right when I came on board, I noticed that the shift with the on-site managers and the community managers and the maintenance technicians, right? The bulk of our company, the shift really became from teaching them how to do their job well to teaching them how to be good people, be great at the customer service, be future leaders. So we kind of, same thing. We analyzed everybody's capacity. We figure out who are we moving forward with, who is there a great values alignment. And then we started training. Because now if an owner can't reach me, he can call a community manager. And I think all property management companies, that's where the focus should be, is making sure that everybody in the organization knows exactly what they're supposed to do and they buy into the idea of it. And that's what we've done a great job over the past year, I think.
So one of the things I want to ask you about is technology, as you said. Technology, there's all types. We have infinite technologies because it's not just the technologies that are here at this event, not just technologies online, but there's all types of sectors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I always say it's not just a technology thing that you're trying to implement. It's all of the things you're already trying to do on a daily basis. And is it creating new work, new systems, complexity? So how do you think about technology within your businesses, whether it's on the operations, on the move-ins, the leasing? Do you take especially having a technology background yourself? How do you think about that, and how do you think through new partnerships on the technology side?
So because we can't ignore technology, so of course anyone that does, you're just kind of making yourself fall short. But at the end of the day, we have to see what works. So it is being able to say, listen, give yourself a little leeway and try with the technology that does work. So there's a lot of it. I came from the vendor side. So I know that, there could be a commodity in one certain sector of something, but who does it better? What kind of service do you get? I think for me, it came down to service, which is why.
So service of the teams.
Yes.
And implementation plans.
Correct.
Okay.
Because implementation is difficult.
Yes.
We might say we do like this technology, but now how do we onboard that to the team? How does it integrate with the existing system we have? That is so challenging. And there's going to be questions that come along the way. So the service for me is what I would ideally look for in adopting technology, but we definitely want to do it, and we do it. And the challenge and the roadblocks come when we're trying to make it work. And but we got to give ourselves that time to get adjusted, everybody get on board, because in the long run, it will make things easier. but that tough
Yeah.
part, you gotta kind of ride through it.
Yeah, we need the simplicity, right? Like
Yes.
Appfolio does a great job.
Yes.
If you have a question in Appfolio, you just type a question in the corner
Okay.
in the help desk, and boom, you have a video.
Okay.
So when you have that it makes that hurdle of learning it
Sure.
not so complex. So okay, within a few days we can roll this out. So I think that's important.
It's almost like too many tech companies will sometimes tell you, oh, we do this, we do that, we do this.
Yeah.
They don't focus on, here's what success might look like with another customer in 2 months. Here's what success will look like in 4 months. So that you have a roadmap of success.
Yeah.
So then you're, like you said, what are the ROI points? What are the numbers?
Yeah, how long is it
What are
going
the
to take?
data? Yeah. And then of course, what is the reaction we should be looking for? Because I think so many people, you spend so much time leading up to that launch, and then wait, we're not hearing back because the salesperson's on selling
They
something
moved
else.
on. Yeah.
So what do you think in terms of having been on the tech side? Are there opportunities for? Are you trying to cut the number of companies you're working with? Are you trying to expand? Are you willing to try new things? Do you like being a guinea pig, or do you like waiting till other people try it? What are your thoughts there?
I think I'm kind of in the middle, because when I was rolling out services for my clients, we actually sold what we call bundle. We tried to make it easy on the client.
Yeah.
But the reality is now we were kind of white labeling this or that and whatever. So how does it integrate with us, and how do I then go back and sell it as a whole? Now, the thing is, if you can, in theory, say this would work for this reason, show the metrics and the success that we've had thus far, yes, that would work. And I think that I do like to see what everyone else is doing, with who I'm up against. So I was constantly up against other tech that was doing the same thing. So what is my slight differentiation? How am I going to make it easy for Natasha and her team? Because that's what it's going to come down to at the end of the day. So those are the things that I look for now when we get approached.
Yeah.
Very careful, and I almost vet out things before I send it to Jake, because I'll already know that I've already know your ins and outs because I competed with you. So actually, if I was to go with that tech, I would probably pick this one. So I'm gonna. So there's
You got the BS meter.
Yeah.
That's what I always like to say when you've sold something. You know the BS.
Yeah.
You can cut through the noise to get to the actual the reality.
Exactly.
Thinking and especially on the marketing, I feel like one of the quick and easiest ways to utilize tech today is on the marketing side and that front end to differentiate your lead to lease.
Yes.
Obviously, you can use all types of tech internally on operations and adoption and retention, et cetera. But that front end of filling your building, especially when you're a lease up or renovations, et cetera, like you said, you have tight windows to be able to lease up.
Yeah.
And there's so many options.
Yeah.
How do you think about that? Is there something you're really excited on, or a challenge you're trying to solve for that you don't still have people thought they fixed it, but they haven't really fixed it?
So, yes. And we have 4 lease ups. So it's one of those things where we really say you need to be aggressive in the beginning, and here's why. But we're not trying to spend your money just to spend the money. So anyone that's a true partner will say, here's what you're up against. And it's the tech. It's how do renters actually look for you? If you're a new building, they don't know your name. They may or may not know your location if you don't have the best location. So where do most people look? It was Google for like 4 years. I pounded that in. It still is, but here's what I'm excited about. Now Google's doing AI, because they got to get in that game. There's chat, there's Claude, OpenAI. So what I've now found with our lease ups is, in doing the performance calls with my partners, I'm saying, what are you doing to combat AI? Because if I'm paying for a paid ad, why am I not like Googling it and now seeing that AI is going to pop up a competitor? And it's one of the things where nobody can kind of quite control, but you have to like kind of get into that game now. So not only are you looking at what Google's saying from a search perspective, now you got to look at what are people saying from an IA if they choose AI as their search, which is more and more becoming what it is. You've got to play in both fields now. And we're all kind of trying to figure out where that is to appear in both.
I think the DIY is gone, right? Like we can't just have our website and just post there. You need to be on the social media. You have to be, where are your residents? You have to be where they are. If it's the seniors, then you got to be in the senior community centers. But you have to know who your audience is. And again, with the competition, and it gets expensive. It's hard to pitch an owner, hey, $1,500 for this contract, another $800 for this, and you don't actually know where you're going to pop up. You just know you're going to get more leads, but not sure if they're going to be quality yet, and not sure if it's going to be a return on investment. So there's in that metric side, right?
Yes.
I come to Kathy all the time. I'm like, I got 42 leads and none of them were good. Tell me what's happening, and then she'll start digging
I
in.
have to
But
dig.
I think, just understanding, and when you pay the money for the tech, make sure it's working for you. Because it's almost like an automatic subscription. You paid for it, you never rolled it out. Or half of you did, the other half didn't. Like Zillow is worthless if you don't go in and keep it updated.
Sure.
So you got to do the extra work too.
What's interesting too, because it is so competitive, right? It's going to in technology, especially California, right?
Oh yeah.
Where you're a technology state. Things are consistently changing all the time, and you have to stay up with it. I always think, back to when we were talking with Christy last night, and having a great partner that you can work with that cares about your success. I think that's you hit it on the head earlier in our conversation. Is you can do DIY and you're going to get DIY results.
Yeah.
But when you find the experts like yourselves or supplier partners who are great technologists, they're going to know that sector and you can offload it to them, right?
Yeah.
You're going to pay for quality. It's just like why you get paid for quality.
Right. And I would hope that they would, as an investor themselves, they would understand that you have to invest to get your return on investment, and over time your net operating income. But you've got to give it that time.
100%. Well, I appreciate you both spending this time. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for having this great weather in San Diego. I can't wait to get back here. Yeah, I have my family here, and it's great to get back out here. But thanks for spending time and sharing your secrets.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
This is so much fun.
Chris.
Cheers. Yeah.